Hello, I'm Bayrak Walters. The leadership project I took over is a conference put together by the Department of Social Work called Boots to Suits. The purpose of the conference is to discuss with human resources professionals and hiring managers the value of hiring veterans and how veterans can be or are an asset to any organization. First task of the project was to recruit committee members, which two important leadership skills were involved: communication and persuasiveness. I used the appeal of logos and pathos for the newly contacted agencies and organizations, and ethos for those persons I already had a relationship. And finally, the committee was formed. Um, of course, with such committee, I had some cultural differences. I'm from Turkey, where high context culture is involved, and we rely on interpersonal relationships. I personally think socializing is important in order to build relationship. However, in a low context culture like the United States, socializing is not that important, and especially if this is a planning committee meeting, that means once a month. Most of the committee members were very direct, precise, and to the point in their communication. Although some may view it as this is how business should be conducted, it was rather challenging for me. I did find it very impersonal, and I tried to adapt to this culture, but as the saying goes, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can never take the country out of the girl. I started making little side conversations with the committee members before or after the meeting, depending on the free time we have. I just started to chat a little bit, and surprisingly, by months passed by, I found out that they are actually adapting to my culture, and they really do enjoy these little talks. And I got to know them better. I started to lead them better. Actually, the cultural difference has worked to my advantage in this instance. And of course, with this many committee members, there will be, needless to say, a personality differences. I am an ESFJ, for example. This type of personality, I swing further away from the researcher on a closer researcher pendulum, and we did have a researcher type person who kept postponing the decision making at pretty much at every meeting, which drove me crazy. And deadlines mean a great deal to me. And eventually, I did convince this person to make a decision without hurting her feelings. Although unwillingly, she did accept it. But when looking back, what I should have done was maybe look at the things from her point of view, from her angle, and maybe given her another week to conduct the research and then make a decision. She would have been definitely, certainly happier, and maybe her research that she would have conducted would have changed my decision at the end. However, we have resolved the issue without any pinches or crunches. But before I move forward to the pinch model, let me ask you an odd question. Have you ever in your life felt like slapping your boss? Well, I did. And here's an incident, and I promise I will tie it up with the course concept. After work hours one day, I am presenting my ideas to my boss about the conference and giving her update on the marketing and all the actions I have taken with pending tasks from the committee members. And rather rudely, she starts bashing all my ideas and telling me that I have taken all the incorrect actions and contacted all the wrong businesses, and I did not do what she had requested me to do. After trying to explain to her the logic and reason behind my actions, she just continues in disbelief, and her remarks and accusations start to get ugly and inappropriate. And at that moment, I feel my blood pressure rising rapidly, and I feel my face is turning red. I must look extremely red at that moment, and now I'm ready to slap her. But instead, I politely suggest that we should revisit the subject the next day, and I left her office. Well, the next day we never revisited the subject, but there are a couple of concepts that we learned in class that I can apply to this one incident. And the first one is the pinch model. As Dr. Dent presented in his lecture, this model developed by Sherwood and Glidewell suggests that relationships seldom proceed smoothly or as expected, and all interactions rely on implicit expectations. So problems occur when expectations are not stated explicitly, and when others' expectations are not inquired, and furthermore, when parties assume that they share each other's expectations, and when these expectations are disrupted, disconnect occurs and is called a pinch. And if it's not resolved satisfactorily for both parties when first noted, the pinches may become a crunch, which may cause the termination of the relationship. So when my boss asked me about to contact certain businesses, she had the expectations that I will understand. She assumed that I will understand, saying that here, contact these new businesses, introduce the idea to them, and convince them to hire veterans. In my case, when I contacted businesses that are already hiring the veterans, I thought since they haven't met the quota, it would be much easier to convince them, and that she would understand the logic behind it and she would appreciate it. But nevertheless, neither party's expectations were explicit, and like I said, we never talked about the incident in a traditional way the next day. But however, during the committee meeting, when the other members heard about my actions and ideas, they approved of it. And my boss, she apologized before the committee members. And also later that week, she visited my office just to chat, and I had a chance to introduce to her the pinch model. And this was our way to make peace, and it didn't cause any crunches, and the stability and productivity was restored without a problem. Another course concept that is applicable is the emotional intelligence. According to Slovy and Mayer, emotional intelligence is the ability to monitor one's own as well as others' feelings and emotions, and to discriminate among those emotional states. In most cases, controlling others' emotions is impossible. In the example of me and my boss, I had no control over her thoughts or about her feelings. However, I was able to observe her emotional state and behavior, and in return, I was able to control my own. And at that time, although my inside was just storming and I was so ready to slap her or just to quit, it was the right thing to do, just to say that we will revisit the topic the next day, and left calmly. Throughout this project, I figured out that I'm driven by socialized power, and I enjoy making positive impact. I like offering advice and assistance. Based on the readings and observations of how I lead the committee members, my displayed leadership style is coaching. The reason I have been successful with this style of leadership may be due to serving for a collective interest rather than solely serving self-interest. As long as the job got done successfully, the behavior shifted mainly from coaching to supportive, less emphasis on delegating, and very little emphasis on directive style. Overall, the project was a success. I received great satisfaction and fulfillment with this project, which was significant. But the significance was not in the goal itself, but it was in the journey that was taken to get there. Along the way, I discovered many things about myself. Everyone may have a different opinion about the most important attributes of a leader. And throughout my experience and what we have learned in class, and based on the numerous articles that we have read, I think self-awareness is the most important, at times most painful aspect of leadership. Overall, the leadership project and experience has been great. It is my hope that I was able to lead the committee members with my head as well as my heart, and that I was able to establish long-term relationship with the committee members, and hopefully in the future I will lead them better with my newly acquired knowledge about leadership. Thank you very much for your time, for listening.